Hi everybody, Al Bernstein here with another one of my quick hit videos. And on this one, we get to preview what should be an excellent fight on May 27th up in Northern England between the champion, Kell Brook, putting his welterweight title on the line against American Errol Spence. And that is a much anticipated welterweight matchup. It's one that we will show to the United States viewers on Showtime starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it should be, as I said, an excellent matchup with great significance in the welterweight division. Now, these two fighters are among the elite in the division. Brook, of course, a champion, and Errol Spence, a U.S. Olympian who has marched through 21 opponents and believes now to be ready to challenge for a world title. Now, for Kell Brook, this bout comes at a very interesting time. Remember, he had stepped up in weight to face Gennady Golovkin, the middleweight champion of the world, in a move that was a risky endeavor, based, though, on the fact that Kell Brook thought he could go up and perform well and surprise the world in beating Golovkin. Well, obviously, it didn't quite turn out that way. Though Brook had early success in the match, he would end up getting knocked down by Gennady Golovkin and would ultimately be stopped, have the fight stopped when his corner threw in the towel. It was a good effort by Kell Brook. He made some of his offense work during this fight against Golovkin and showed his skill, obviously his skill level and his grittiness. Suffered an eye injury, though, which took a while to heal. And so for Kell Brook, he's coming into this fight off a significant layoff and rehabbing from an injury after having taken something of a beating from Gennady Golovkin. So all those things are factors in this fight. Now, for Errol Spence, he comes in here off a win over Leonard Bundu, a journeyman and solid welterweight. Spence was able to use his typically aggressive style to hurt Bundu in this fight and attack him, and then ultimately to get him out, knocking out Bundu with the signature power that Errol Spence, the 27-year-old from the United States, has shown during the course of his fights. Now, this fight is an interesting one on many levels. Let's look at the numbers of this fight and take a peek at the tail of the tape. Kell Brook, older. He is, as they said already, a champion. The rest of the numbers, other than Spence's age, are very similar, but those are a little deceiving because Kell Brook fights taller. Spence is an aggressor who will bend at the waist more. And so you have to almost look at that and think of Brook as the fighter that fights taller. And so if they're at length out there, you might see Spence looking like the same height, but for the most part, he'll be bending at the waist when he attacks Brook. And how will this all play out in terms of strategy and technique in the ring? Well, let's take a look at the keys to victory, and we'll get some idea of that. First of all, for Kell Brook. Kell Brook needs to stay off the ropes, as he did for the most part when he fought Shawn Porter. One of the things about Brook is that he has a much bigger resume of fighting top-name opponents than does Errol Spence. And one of those fights was against Shawn Porter, and Porter is really kind of a right-handed version in a way of Spence because of the aggression and the fact that he's always coming forward. Against him, he did stay off the ropes, Kell Brook, and he wants to do that against Spence. The lead right hand is a very effective weapon. Spence can be hit with that punch, and Brook was able to hit Golovkin with it on a number of occasions, but didn't have the power to hurt him. But he has, again, in the Porter fight, he was able to land that punch well. Key punch in this fight for Kell Brook will be the counter left hand. He's got to land the left hook as Spence is coming in. And Spence often will throw right hooks to the body, and then that would leave the left hook over it available for Kell Brook. He needs to get that punch in. As for Errol Spence, the the aggressive and power punching American. He wants to come in and make sure that he doesn't square his body up. He frequently does that. He'll get, in the heat of battle, he makes himself an available target to fighters. And because he hasn't faced any really big punchers so far, or men on a skill level of Kell Brook, that hasn't cost him. But against Brook, it will if he does it. Go downstairs, he needs to work the body. Errol Spence is probably one of the 2 or 3 best body punchers in the sport. He's excellent at it. And get inside. He's got to get inside the counter left hook of Brook, where he can be in a position to work both the body and the head. Now, this fight is an intriguing one because I kind of liken it a little bit to a fight years ago when Joe Calzaghe was taking on Jeff Lacey. And Jeff Lacey, American champion at 168 pounds. He and Calzaghe were both champions, so that was slightly different than this fight. Lacey went over to England, and many of the American press and American fans had kind of made it a foregone conclusion that Jeff Lacey was going to walk into the ring in Manchester and just overpower Joe Calzaghe. There was this perception that somehow Calzaghe hadn't fought the toughest of opposition, and that somehow Jeff Lacey was just going to walk in there and destroy him. I never thought that was the case. And when fight night came, it turned out to be just the opposite. Now, I never anticipated Joe Calzaghe would score such a convincing and one-sided and dominant victory as he did over Jeff Lacey, but I certainly thought he deserved to be the favorite in the fight. And the reason I bring it up is because in this match, I sense to some degree the idea that on this side of the pond, American fans feel like this is a foregone conclusion, that it's a coronation for Errol Spence. And nothing could be further from the truth. Now, Errol Spence is a very talented young fighter who may very well win this fight. And I think it could be described as a 50-50 fight. But he is facing a very tough challenge. Kell Brook has faced much better competition than him. He is more battle-tested than him. And Kell Brook is a terrific fighter. So this is not a foregone conclusion for fans that think, or media members even in the United States, that somehow think this is just a coronation for Errol Spence. He's going to be fighting, of course, in hostile territory, though fighters have often done that and pulled off the victory. I think one of the things that's important about this fight is early on in the match, Errol Spence will get hit with a counterpunch of some kind by Brook. We'll see how he reacts. Errol Spence is perceived to have the edge in power, and he's a very powerful puncher. But the other part of that equation is he's never faced a person that hits as hard as Kell Brook. In his last fight against Chris, or in the fight before against Chris Algieri, who boxes a little bit similarly in some respects to Kell Brook, he was facing, a fighter who just isn't a powerful puncher. Chris is not a big puncher. So he's not faced that power yet. Now, for Kell Brook, the challenges that I mentioned earlier are significant. Coming in off a layoff, the injury, the eye injury that had to heal, that he got from the Golovkin fight. And the fact that he's coming in here off a brutal stoppage against a very powerful fighter. Has that taken anything out of Kell Brook? Would it have been better for him to have some fight before facing someone as tough as Errol Spence? And also coming down in weight. He went up in weight and to fight at middleweight. And then Kell Brook suggested maybe 154 is the best weight for him, which it might be. So how easily will he make the weight? So both fighters have questions coming into this fight, which doesn't detract from their excellence or detract from how good this fight is going to be, but it's part of what makes it an intriguing matchup. So we'll see on May 27th. I will be delighted to be there ringside with my Showtime mates, Maura Ronaldo, Paulie Malignaggi, and also Brian Custer hosting. And we'll be bringing you in America, the fight between Kell Brook and Errol Spence over in the UK. Sky Sports will be showing it. And we all know that a big part of 2017 and its amazing, the amazing resurgence boxing has had this year, a lot of it can be laid at the doorstep of the fighters in the UK and the matches in the UK that have been so significant, not the least of which was the one I was also privileged to announce with Vladimir Klitschko and Anthony Joshua in that great heavyweight fight in front of 90,000 people in Wembley Stadium. There will be 30,000 people on hand for this fight between Kell Brook and Errol Spence. So the UK influence in boxing, it is right now really the center of the boxing world. That will add flavor and excitement to this fight. And this is a terrific welterweight matchup, continuing the streak of great fights that boxing has had in 2017. And I think it will be a terrific matchup. You can see it on Showtime on May 27th, 5 p.m. Eastern. I think it's going to be a great show. I'll see you then.